prior to activation, I wasn't hearing those sounds. It made me realize I really was missing a lot more than I thought. Hi, my name is Lyra. It's been 5 weeks since my cochlear implant activation. My activation was a dream. It was so easy. I have sat through so many activations in my professional life. And knowing that I was going to experience sound finally again in this ear and what it would sound like, I was a little bit nervous, but I was also pretty confident. My audiologist used anatomy-based fitting from the beginning. So I did not have to do anything but just to be present. And she looked at my scans and she was able to just turn the device on. I could hear sound, and then 10 seconds later, it sounded even better and better. And by the time I left that office, a half hour later, I was pretty confident in I can see myself wearing this all day. So the first 5 days was really interesting because this is something that I used to tell my patients, to just go around and listen to the sounds in your house. I would turn on the water and I would lean in with my implanted ear to hear it. I would walk into a room and I would say to my family, something in this house is making sound. Don't tell me, let me figure it out. And it was the clock, or it was the dogs walking behind me. And so to be able to listen and find that for myself was great. And then to have the realization that prior to activation, I wasn't hearing those sounds. It made me realize I really was missing a lot more than I thought. Even at this early stage, the implant sounds so good. It sounds so good. If people ask me what the hardest part of my day is, the hardest part of my day is when I take it off and I go to bed, because I just really feel like I love hearing the fullness of life again. It has reminded me that we live in a really noisy world. I'm like, why is everyone so loud? Why is the Starbucks so loud? But it also makes me realize that, there's conversations that, I can have in a lot of different spaces. Since I know that I have a normal functioning ear, and then I also have a cochlear implant, everything is so balanced. There isn't one thing that's more overpowering. So sometimes I don't even recognize, that I heard that from my implant side, or I heard that from, my normal hearing ear. The visual that I use is this, it just feels like this. And I remember saying that at activation when my audiologist said, how does this sound? And I thought, like this, just sounds completely balanced. The fact that I can hear in loud restaurants and really in any space is incredibly memorable. My daughter and I went to my first concert together, a live concert, and it was so much fun. I also saw my first Broadway show in New York City with my cochlear implant. And all the times that I'm with my family and that they can point out how well I'm hearing is such an incredible moment. My daughter and I were walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, and there was traffic, and it was sunset, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people around us. And we're just having a conversation about her life and grad school and what she wants to do next. And I didn't miss a thing. And she was the one that said, if I would have had this conversation with you a few months ago, I don't think we would be talking like this. I don't think that I would even be able to share the things like this. And so, people tell you about getting your life back, and it's that and more. You get your life back, and then you get this whole opening to opportunities and experiences that you couldn't even imagine.